Have you ever wondered, when the night falls, where do our dreams come from? Is it just a patchwork of scattered memories, or is there a divine hand silently guiding the way behind the curtain of night? In the pantheon of Greek mythology, there is a story that few people mention. The story of the first night Hermes delivered a letter in the dark. Not the light of day, not a message for the gods, but a silent journey through the sleep of men. It was the night Hera wanted to test him, the night his dreams were torn apart by the Oniroi, the black birds of nightmare. And it was also the night a mortal child suddenly became a testament to the miraculous power of human will. Just imagine, you are in a dream, surrounded by darkness, fear rising like a wave. And then, from afar, a small light flashes. A pair of silver wings glide across the sky, carrying the message that, even in dreams, you are never alone. That night, Hermes became more than a messenger. He became the keeper of dreams, the one who brought light through the darkness of humanity. And that story is what we are about to embark on together. So, sit back, relax your eyes, let your breath slow. Let the story take you back to the old days, where the stars were still traces of the gods in the sky. There, Hermes, the swift god with silver wings on his feet, was not yet known as the bringer of dreams at night. He was known only as the messenger, the escort of souls across the river, the cunning but also the wise. However, one fateful night, Hera, the queen of Olympus, summoned him, placing in Hermes' hands a strange challenge: to bring a first dream through the night to a mortal child. And from that moment, the night was no longer silent. A new legend begins, the legend of the postman in a...
Who was the first person to carry a letter? A question that has no answer in our records, yet has an echo in our memory. This question was a whisper in the dark corners of ancient Greece, a country where the sun would sleep earlier than usual. It seems like it was yesterday when the twilight would unleave the valleys and the night would come to the cities before the people there would get tired. How do we know this? Because we feel it in the poems of Sappho, who writes about a long, slow night that doesn't want to end, and the philosophers who discuss the shortness of life and the endless darkness of night. We find the same question in the paintings of Venetian Canaletto, who depict squares illuminated by torches and oil lamps, showing us how the night was alive and full of conversations. So who was the first person to carry a letter in the dark? It's impossible to say, but the Greeks had a myth for this, a story that explained how the night became full of letters, how darkness became full of words. Do you want to hear it? Good. Let's go back to the time of ancient Greece. It's getting dark. The glow of the evening is fading away. The sky above Olympus is turning into a deep blue, almost black. The mountain peaks are touching the clouds and the wind is playing hide and seek among the trees. Up in the palace of the gods on Mount Olympus, the great feast has ended. Zeus is holding court, Athena is examining a new strategy, Poseidon is arguing with Hades, and Apollo is playing a sad tune on his lyre. Among them, Hermes stands out. He's not listening to the arguments or playing games. He's restless, like a bird that feels the coming storm. His eyes are fixed on the dark valley below. But why does he stare so intently into the darkness? Because Hermes hears sounds that others don't. He hears a small knock, a creak, a sigh. But what are these sounds saying to him? There's only one way to find out. He takes off his golden belt, grabs his magic staff, and puts on his winged sandals. With a quiet rustle, he climbs onto his chariot, pulled by two swift goats. Without anyone noticing, he drives towards the dark side of the mountain. Now the wind is pushing him, whispering secrets into his ear. It's telling him about a quiet hut in a secluded valley where an old man named Tiresias lives. He's known throughout Greece as a seer, a man who can predict the future. Hermes lands near the hut. He walks up to the door and knocks lightly. Before the old man can ask who's there, Hermes introduces himself. He tells Tiresias about the sound he heard, a sound that worried him. Tiresias listens patiently, then tells Hermes to sit by the fire and wait until the stars start twinkling. Only when the sky is full of light will I tell you what you came for, he says mysteriously. Hermes sits down by the fire and starts to ponder. Time goes by and the sky becomes a deep blue again, sprinkled with twinkling stars. Tiresias, with his sharp eyes, looks at each one and says, "Ah, I see what the sound means. Someone has forgotten a letter, a very important letter, and it's lying abandoned in the dark." Upon hearing this, Hermes immediately asks, "Where is it, and what does it say?" Tiresias points with his finger at the sky and says, "The letter is up there, among the stars. It's written in the language of the universe, and only those who know its signs can read it. Want to know what it says? Then take a trip to the highest peak of Olympus. When the first rays of sunlight touch the snow there, you'll find your answer." Hermes thanks the old man, gets into his chariot and races up the mountain. He reaches the top just as the sky is turning pink from the rising sun, and there he sees a small piece of paper fluttering in the wind. He picks it up, unfolds it carefully and reads. The letter is addressed to the messenger of the gods, Hermes, it says. "A letter lost in the darkness of night can be a harbinger of new beginnings. Go to the highest peak of Olympus, and I will show you the dawn of a new path." As soon as Hermes finishes reading, the paper turns to ashes and the wind carries them away. Hermes smiles, because he knows who wrote the letter. It's the night itself, asking him to continue its story. And so, guided by the stars and the whispers of the wind, Hermes delivers the first night letter. And from that day on, the tradition continues. Hermes runs through the dark paths of the night, carrying messages, hopes and dreams. He shows us that sometimes the darkness only conceals the beginning of something new and beautiful. In Greek mythology, each god has his own appearance, a rhythm that people can imagine just by hearing his name. Zeus is like the roar of thunder, Poseidon is the fierce breath of the sea, and Apollo carries the brilliant light of the harp. But Hermes, even when mentioned, people hear the sound of wind. He never stood still. From birth, Hermes displayed a restlessness, agility, and a cunning intelligence that both amused and alarmed the gods. The Greeks often recounted that just one day after his birth, Hermes stole Apollo's herd of cows. This was not because he needed the cows, but because he was eager to test himself on the path of adventure. The image of Hermes is easily recognizable. A wide-brimmed hat to protect against the sun and wind. Sandals with wings as thin as smoke, and in his hand is the caduceus, a symbol of reconciliation. Sometimes also a symbol of travelers. Wherever there is a path, a message, a secret to be kept, Hermes appears. It is said that every sudden gust of wind, every sudden whisper in the middle of the night, can be a trace of Hermes. By day, Hermes is the bridge between Olympus and the mortal world. He delivers Zeus's commands, brings praise to heroes, or leads the souls of the dead back to Hades. Hermes's pace is so swift that nothing seems to be able to stop him. He is the heartbeat of movement, the breath of journey. But then, that night, when the sky was dressed in a black velvet cloak of stars, Hermes stood still. His winged sandals, accustomed to the light of the sun, were now shrouded in darkness. The night was not like the day. There was no bustle of people, no festival, no music of Apollo or the murmur of the council of gods. There was only the chirping of insects, the rustling of leaves, and a silence as vast as the sea. Hermes loved the hustle and bustle, but in that moment, he felt something different, the silent attraction of the night. The night did not rush, did not make noise, but opened a path that the day could not, the path of listening. He sat down on a rock, the silver staff by his side, and looked up at the starry sky. For the first time, Hermes realized that his nimble feet, in addition to running around the world, could also take him into the depths of silence, a silence where each star seemed to whisper, telling its own story. Hermes is often called the swift messenger in Greek mythology, but he is also sometimes called the traveler of the boundaries between day and night, life and death, speech and silence. That is why he is entrusted with the most sensitive tasks, guiding souls, delivering messages that no one else dares to keep. That night, as he walked through the darkness for the first time, Hermes felt no fear. Instead, he felt as if his winged sandals were learning to fly to a new rhythm, the slow rhythm of the night. Each step echoed across the stone path, then faded into silence. It seemed as if even the darkness had opened its arms to welcome this messenger. And so, the image of Hermes, familiar in the bright sunlight, gradually became etched into the darkness. People will remember him not only as the messenger in the sunlight, but also as the one who walked lightly in the night, with his winged sandals that left no trace. Imagine you are in ancient Greece, lying on the grass by the hillside, looking up at the stars. Suddenly a gentle wind brushes your cheek, then disappears. The ancients would smile, whispering to each other, "That's Hermes, running again." And sometimes, they believed that at that very moment, an invisible letter was being carried, flying through the air, to a waiting person. Hermes, the god of swift steps, was born to move. But it was the night, with its vast silence, that made his steps legendary. For it was in the night that Hermes learned that speed is not only about being fast, but also about listening to the whispers of the universe. Now close your eyes and picture the bustling streets of ancient Greece. You can almost hear the rhythmic sound of sandals on stone, the murmur of conversation, the clink of pottery, and in the center of it all, a tall figure with a wide-brimmed hat and winged sandals. Striding confidently, moving from one destination to the next. This is Hermes, the messenger of the gods. In the celestial expanse above the earth, nestled amongst the clouds, stood Mount Olympus, home to the 12 Olympian gods. During the day, the mountain echoed with the laughter and squabbles of the deities. But when the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to gleam, a hush fell over Olympus. The boisterous revelry was replaced by an ethereal quiet, broken only by the soft rustle of the night wind. Zeus, the supreme leader of the gods, was rarely at peace. His brow was perpetually creased with concern for the affairs of mortals, and his booming laughter shook the heavens as often as his thundering voice did. But at night, even Zeus found solace in slumber. His massive frame relaxed, his stern visage softened, and the lightning bolt, his symbol of power, was laid to rest beside him. Hera, the queen of the gods, exuded majesty both in wakefulness and in sleep. Her regal bearing was such that even in dreams she appeared as though carved from marble, serene and commanding. Her flowing locks fanned out around her like a dark, starless night, hinting at the depth of her slumber. Apollo, the radiant god of music and light, whose lyre usually danced with his nimble fingers, bringing joy to the hearts of mortals and immortals alike, was now still. His instrument lay silent by his side, its strings unstrung, mirroring the stillness of the night. Even the melodies that played on his lips ceased, leaving behind a haunting echo of what once was harmonious. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, whose mind was as sharp as the steel in a warrior's helmet, found respite in the velvety cloak of night. She, who spent her waking hours in pursuit of knowledge and strategy, would lean back on a stone bench, the weight of countless scrolls and tomes forgotten. The books that usually lay open on her lap were closed, their pages whispering secrets only the wind could hear. As the hours slipped by, a blanket of tranquility settled over Olympus. Poseidon, the earthshaker, ceased his turbulent movements. Hades, the lord of the underworld, who brooked no interruption in his solitary realm, slept soundly. Even the mischievous Hermes, whose winged feet were made for travel, was lulled into a state of peaceful slumber, his caduceus staff resting atop a nearby cloud. And then there was Demeter, the motherly goddess of the harvest, whose heart ached with the pain of loss, for her daughter Persephone had been taken from her by the wiles of Hades. Now cradled in the crook of night, her grief abated somewhat. The furrows on her brow smoothed out, and the tears that had flowed freely during her wakeful hours were dried by the gentle caress of sleep. Meanwhile, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, dreamed of roses, of myrtle groves, and of the soft sighs of adoration. Ares, the god of war, whose very essence was conflict, dreamt not of bloodshed and battle, but of bucolic plains and of sheep grazing peacefully. And Dionysus, the wild god of wine and revelry, dreamt of vineyards heavy with ripe grapes and of satyrs dancing in the moonlight. Thus, one by one, the Olympian gods surrendered to the embrace of night, their individual worries and cares forgotten or put on hold until the next morning. For even the immortal gods needed the respite that sleep afforded, a brief escape from the burdens of their existence. The mountain that had been a hive of activity just hours before was now a tableau of slumbering forms, each god nestled in their own private nook of paradise. The silence was profound, yet not oppressive. It was the kind of quiet that blankets a room when all its inhabitants are lost in the land of Nod, their breathing soft and even, their faces relaxed and serene. It was a silence that spoke of peace, of unity, of a shared vulnerability, a reminder that even gods need to dream. Outside the celestial abode, the moon climbed higher in the velvet sky, casting an ethereal glow upon the slumbering gods. Stars twinkled like celestial fireflies, their distant light filtering through the airy heights to paint the ceilings of the divine halls with sparkling hues. It was a night like any other, yet not like any other, for on this night, the gods of Olympus, with no responsibilities or duties pressing upon them, slept in blissful harmony, their dreams a tapestry woven with the threads of peace and tranquility. Did you know that one of the most popular dishes in Greece is called pastetsio? It's like a big Greek lasagna with layers of pasta, meat sauce, and melted cheese. It reminds me of my childhood when my grandmother used to make it for us. We would sit at the table, our mouths watering, waiting for Grandma to serve us this delicious dish. Can you guess what we prayed for? Of course, for seconds. Today I'll share a wonderful Greek legend with you about the origin of this tasty food. But first, let's talk about how the project started. It was created to help you dive deep into the world of ancient Greece. You can learn about Greek myths, geography, art, daily life, and much more. Now let's get back to the legend. Among the gods on Mount Olympus, there is a gentle and quiet goddess who rarely gets involved in arguments or fierce battles. That is Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, of the home, of peace in every family breath. The ancient Greeks believed that in every house, in every small fire that is lit, there is a part of Hestia's presence. She does not like noise, nor does she need a throne or fame, but it is her humility that makes her the silent center of Olympus. That night, when everyone was asleep and only Hermes wandered around with his winged sandals, Hestia's fire still burned. Not bright, not flaming, but just a small, warm flame, trembling like a whispering heart. Hermes stopped before that fire. He was used to speed, used to constant movement, but this gentle light made his steps slow down, his heart calm down. From the fire, Hestia emerged. Not in overwhelming splendor, but with a simple figure, a gentle face, eyes bright but not dazzling. She looked at Hermes like a sister looking at a younger brother, like a roof looking at a traveler returning home after a long day. "You're not asleep yet, Hermes." Hestia's voice was like a gentle breeze. "I can't sleep," Sister Hermes chuckled, looking up at the stars. "There are too many whispers in the night, and I can't ignore them." Hestia nodded. She understood Hermes, the god of restless feet, the one who yearns for new journeys. She silently took out a small piece of paper, carefully wrapped in a white cloth. The firelight reflected off the letter, making it glow as if it contained a secret. "Then take this," Hestia said, placing the letter in Hermes' hands. Hermes looked slightly surprised. "A letter? At night? But why not wait until morning?" Hestia smiled. "There are messages that belong only in the dark, my dear. The day is too bright, too loud. These things lose their purity if exposed to the sun. But at night, when the world is quiet, they are kept intact." Hermes looked at the letter in his hand. It was not large, not heavy, but somehow it felt strangely weighty, as if it contained a small but eternal flame. "The flame of Hestia, the flame of peace. Who is the recipient?" Hermes asked. "Not a powerful god," Hestia replied, "but a human priestess who guards a small temple in the woods. She needs a message tonight, and only you can deliver it." Hermes frowned slightly. In the divine world, it was rare for a god to personally deliver a letter to a mortal, but Hestia's eyes were so kind that he couldn't bear to refuse. "Okay," Hermes nodded. "I will go, but tell me, why me?" Hestia placed a warm hand on Hermes' shoulder. "Because I am the only one who is not afraid of the dark. Because I hear the whispers of the wind and understand the language of silence. The night needs a messenger, and from now on, I will be the messenger in the world's sleep." Hermes bowed his head. He understood that this was more than a mission. This was the beginning of a new path, a role he had never imagined. If by day he carried loud, clear messages, then by night he would carry gentle, secret, and profound messages. Hestia's flames flared up a little, as if to send Hermes off. He clenched the letter tightly in his hand, feeling the warmth from it spread throughout his body. Then, without hesitation, his winged sandals flapped, and Hermes rushed into the night. Olympus was still sleeping. Zeus, Hera, Apollo, Athena all had no idea that at that moment, the history of letters had taken a new turn. From now on, letters could be sent not only during the day, but also at night. Letters were kept in the dark, accompanied by dreams. Hermes, the god of swift feet, received the first letter of the night, and Hestia's small flame, silently, became the torch that gave birth to an unprecedented tradition. And here we come to the end of our journey through the world of ancient Greek myths. Thank you for watching this episode. Remember to stay tuned for more exciting adventures next time. Until then, take care and goodbye. What do you think, dear viewer? Do you like this story about Hermes, the messenger of the gods? If you want to know how Hermes confronted the fearsome monster Typhon, then you should definitely watch the video above. If you like this story, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment below with your thoughts and feedback on our stories, and check out the link in the description for more interesting content. We hope to see you again soon with a new exciting adventure. Until next time, stay curious and keep asking questions. Who knows, you might stumble upon a new amazing discovery. This is part 7 of the series. Check out the playlist for more. As Hermes walked, his winged sandals carried him through the woods, through the ravines, and finally into a quiet valley. There, the silvery moonlight bathed the tiny thatched roofs, making the village seem carved from frost. There was no sound, only the faint smoke from the smoldering fires and the soft, dreamy barking of dogs. Hermes landed near a small temple on the edge of the village. The temple was not large, just 4 rough stone pillars supporting a mossy tiled roof. But in the darkness, it glowed softly, as if holding something sacred within it. And just as Hestia had said, the person he was looking for, a young priestess, was sitting on the stone steps. The strange thing was that she was not sleeping. Her eyes were half closed, but her lips moved as if she were talking to someone in her dreams. Hermes came closer and realized she was dreaming while awake. Her dream was not an ordinary dream. She saw stars falling into her hair, saw golden rice fields rolling into waves, saw her dead parents smiling back at her, and in the midst of it all, she waited for something, a message that even in her dreams she knew would come. Hermes paused. He realized this mission was different from all the others. During the day, the recipient was awake, holding the letter in his hands, reading each word with his eyes. But at night, it was different. Mortals at night received the letter in their dreams. He unfolded the letter. Hestia's firelight still flickered in the letters, making the page glow like glowing embers. Hermes did not read the contents, for he knew the knight's letter was not meant for him to understand. He only had one thing to do: send it into the priestess's dreams. Hermes bent down and touched the letter to her forehead. In that moment, a gust of wind blew by, and her dream world brightened. She saw a fire appear in her dream. A fire that did not burn but warmed like an embrace. Then she heard the message, a message from Hestia, for her heart alone so that no one else could hear. The priestess wept in her dream, but her face was filled with a peaceful smile. Tears fell down her cheeks, sparkling in the moonlight like dew. Hermes stood still. He did not know what the letter said, but he felt its power. It carried no news, no orders, but comfort. For the first time, Hermes understood. The night letter was not just an exchange of messages, but an exchange of souls. It touched the deepest part, where people were most vulnerable, in sleep, in dreams. When the priestess inclined her head, her smile still lingering, Hermes knew the letter had been delivered. He carefully folded the page. Strangely, it was blank, as if all the writing had melted into her dream. Hermes raised his head and looked at the stars. He felt a strange and sacred feeling fill his heart. So, he whispered, "The night is not just for sleeping. The night is when humans and gods can meet, not through the gates of the temple, but through dreams." He left the temple, walking softly so as not to wake the sleeping village. When he turned back, Hermes saw that the priestess had fallen asleep, her sleep now peaceful, and in the flickering oil lamp, he could still see Hestia's flame flickering. Hermes flew up, the night embraced him, but it was no longer scary, for he knew, in the darkness, the letters he carried would find their way into people's dreams, and turn into small flames, warming their souls. Part 8. The Wrath of the Gods. Hermes thought the mission would end peacefully. The letter had reached its recipient, and the dream had flared up like a lamp. He thought he would return to Olympus with light wings, and tell his strange adventure as a legend. But the world of the gods was never all light and laughter. The darkness that had tested Hermes now harbored a deep anger. On Mount Olympus, where the gods still kept watch over the mortal world, Hera, queen of the sky, was the first to sense something was amiss. She frowned as she realized a letter, sent in the night, without the judgment of Zeus or the witness of the council. In the tradition of the gods, all official messages had to be made public, because transparency was the way to maintain power. But Hestia, gentle and uninvolved, did something unprecedented. She empowered Hermes to carry a message quietly, meant for only one mortal, and only in the night. The story reached Apollo, the god of light. To him, day was truth, and light was the measure of all truth. When Apollo heard that Hermes was forging a new path, a path of letters by night, hidden in the dreams of men, he was furious. He considered it an insult. "The world must be clear," Apollo shouted. "No place for secrets whispered in the dark." Even Zeus, the supreme god, was shaken by the news. He sat on his throne, lightning rippling around his hands. He did not immediately shout, but his eyes lit up with caution. Zeus knew that Hermes was his son, cunning and clever. But because of that, he was even more worried that Hermes would use those wings to move away from his power, opening up a new world that even Zeus could not control. Hermes, having completed his mission, had not yet set foot back on Olympus when he sensed a change. The wind in the air grew heavier. Dark clouds gathered and thunder streaked across the sky. Hermes knew at once the wrath of the gods was brewing. He landed on a cliff and looked up, waiting, and sure enough, a blinding light burst forth. Apollo appeared, his lyre in hand, his face as hard as fire. Hera followed, her cloak fluttering. Finally, Zeus descended from above, majestic, his thunderbolt in hand. "My son," Zeus began, his voice like thunder, "what have you done tonight?" Hermes bowed his head, but his eyes were fearless. "I bring a letter, that is all." "Is that all?" Apollo laughed harshly. "You carry the light of truth hidden in your dreams, turning the message of the gods into a private secret. Do you want this world to be immersed in whispers?" Hera interjected. "Hermes, you are wise, but your wisdom is leading you astray. If this practice becomes a habit, men will seek the gods in their dreams, instead of coming to us through temples and offerings. Do you understand? That would disrupt the order." Hermes raised his head. His voice was soft but firm. "I understand, but the night is part of the world. People also need to hear things that cannot be said in the light. A letter written at night does not diminish the power of the gods, but only increases the faith in their hearts." Zeus remained silent, thunder still rumbling around him. Hermes knew he had just entered a test more dangerous than the darkness, the test of facing the wrath of his own divine family. But strangely, it was that silence that made heaven and earth stop. Zeus did not throw his thunderbolt. Hera did not curse. Apollo, though his eyes still burned with fire, stopped his scolding, because deep down, even they understood. There are things that only the night can touch, things that the light can never hold. Hermes stood there, still clutching the blank letter, proof that it had vanished into mortal dreams. He offered no arguments, no justifications. He let his silence and his presence alone answer. The anger was not yet gone, but in that moment, the gods were forced to admit Hermes had opened a new door, and even if they wanted to close it, light and darkness would no longer be separated. And so, under the watchful eyes of the gods, Hermes continued his nightly flights, carrying messages into the dreams of mortals. Each letter brought a new challenge, a new story, a new emotion. And with each delivery, the bond between the world of the gods and the world of mortals grew a little stronger. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please Please hit the like button and subscribe for more mythology adventures. Your support means the world to me. Until next time, remember, the night is not for sleeping. The night is when the impossible can be dreamed. Hermes flew across the sky. The night was dark, but the moon helped him navigate the paths between the clouds, over hills and valleys, and finally over a forest that was dark and silent. As he landed on the ground, he could hear the beating of his own wings. The forest was so quiet, there was not a single sound. A branch creaked, or maybe it was just the wind. But then Hermes saw it. Something seemed to be moving in the distance. He followed the path and soon saw a clearing. And inside the clearing something flickered. It wasn't the northern lights, but a small fire. Next to it sat a girl in a white robe. Even from afar, Hermes could feel the heat coming off her. No, not just heat, but magic. And he could tell right away. This was not an ordinary mortal. Hermes landed behind a tree and watched. The girl did not notice him. She didn't stir at all. Was she asleep? But how could anyone fall asleep in the cold without a blanket? Hermes came closer and saw that the girl was praying, not to any god, but to the fire, and he could hear her voice. She spoke softly, as if she wasn't saying anything important. Yet Hermes felt the power in every word. The girl was not just praying. She was giving the fire her pain, pouring out her sorrow. And the fire listened. Hermes found it fascinating. He wanted to help the girl, but he didn't know how. Just then, a shooting star streaked across the sky and left a trail of silver. The girl stopped praying and looked up. Hermes saw tears on her cheeks. And they weren't tears of sadness, but of hope. Hope for a sign, a prophecy, maybe even a god. And at that moment, Hermes realized what he had to do. He stepped out from behind the tree and called out to her. The girl screamed and jumped up. She looked at Hermes as if seeing him for the first time. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. Hermes smiled. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I'm here to help you." Hermes told the girl about Hestia's prophecy and showed her the letter. The girl took the letter and read it. Her eyes were wide with surprise. "This is for me," she whispered. Hermes nodded. "You must deliver it," he said. "But how?" the girl asked. "How can I give a letter to a god?" Hermes smiled again. "You already have, my dear," he said. "You gave her your pain, your sadness, your loneliness, and she heard you." The girl looked at the fire. She didn't say a word, but Hermes saw that she understood. And when the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, she burned the letter. Not with a flame, but with her tears. The girl cried. She cried because she was sad, but also because she was happy. Happy that Hestia had chosen her. Happy that Hermes had brought her the letter. The girl was not just a worshipper of Hestia, she was Hestia's priestess. And the fire she prayed to was not just a fire, it was Hestia herself. The goddess had sent Hermes to her, and the letter wasn't just a message, it was an embrace. Hestia was telling her, "You are not alone, you are loved, you are part of something bigger." And as the sun rose higher and higher, Hermes saw the girl smile. She wiped her tears and started to sing. Her voice was like the chime of bells, and it echoed through the forest. "Thank you, Hestia," she sang. "Thank you for visiting me in my dreams. Thank you for warming me with your love. Thank you for letting me know I am not alone." And Hermes knew Hestia was not just listening. She was dancing with her priestess, embracing her, guiding her. Because the night is not just for sleeping. The night is when humans and gods can meet. They can pass notes through windows, leave letters in fireplaces, and whisper secrets in dreams. And so, the gods kept quiet. They couldn't very well let this blatant rebellion pass, but they didn't have a valid reason to punish Hermes, but they simply waited, watching to see how the humans would receive these nightly letters. Back in the human world, the letter had reached its recipient. The dream had flared up like a lamp. With trembling hands, the man read the letter, each word burning into his soul. At first it was fear. Who could send such a message? Why had the gods taken an interest in his life? But then came gratitude and hope. There was someone powerful looking after him, giving him guidance in the darkness. In the following days, many people experienced similar events, receiving letters that solved their problems or revealed truths. Each letter stirred their souls and led them towards a deeper understanding of themselves. As people talked about these mysterious letters, a legend began to take shape. It told of a messenger who brought messages from the gods in the dead of night, carrying the hopes and fears of humanity right to the doorstep of the divine realm. And thus the path that Hermes had forged became a bridge between heaven and earth, a route that was taken by countless souls seeking solace, wisdom, or intervention in their mortal affairs. But not everyone welcomed God's interference in human lives. Some believed that the gods were taking sides, playing favorites, and causing imbalance in the world. The most vocal of these critics were those who had received no letters, those who had no answers in their dreams. They demanded justice, fairness. Why were some chosen and others ignored? What was the purpose of these nighttime revelations? These voices of discontent grew louder and louder, echoing the timeless question of humanity. Why? Meanwhile, on Mount Olympus, the gods kept watch over the human world, silently observing the consequences of their actions. Apollo, still bitter about the challenge to his domain, demanded punishment. Why should mortals whisper secrets to each other in the dark, when the sun's rays can reveal everything? He cried out. But Hera, wise and ever watchful, urged caution. "Let us wait," she said, her voice echoing with authority, "and see what fruit this messenger's labor brings forth. We are gods, not the gardeners of human choices." And so the gods waited, their patience tested by the mortals' insatiable curiosity and their own conflicting desires to guide or to observe, to intervene or to stand back. In the stillness of their divine court, only Zeus remained silent, his thoughts echoing the rumble of thunder. He knew the humans' thirst for answers, their constant seeking of divine favor, but he also saw the potential chaos that these nightly letters could bring. Still, he chose to wait, trusting in the balance of the world and the wisdom of his own heart. Night after night, Hermes flew his course, carrying messages of love, loss, hope, despair, dreams, and prophecies. Each delivery added a new thread to the tapestry of human lives, creating a complex pattern of emotions and reactions. And with each passing night, the legend of the night messengers soared higher, touching the stars and reaching the ears of the immortals. Yet, amidst this celestial drama, a profound question echoed in the halls of Olympus, a question that transcended the boundaries of divinity and mortality. Was this nightly revelation a blessing or a curse? Only time, the sculptor of destinies, would reveal the true form of this divine innovation. To be continued. Hey friends, thank you for watching this episode. If you liked the story, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Your support means a lot and helps us keep bringing these tales to life. Also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. We've got plenty more adventures planned, and we'd love for you to join us on our journey. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you next time. After the night Hermes delivered the first letter, the atmosphere of Olympus was no longer as peaceful as before. The silver clouds that once floated leisurely now tangled like tense scarves. At the highest point, the eternal fire of Hestia burned steadily, while in the distance, countless stars still twinkled, witnessing everything. And then, between the fire and the stars, an unprecedented debate began. Hestia was the first to speak. Her voice was warm, but steady as hot coals. "I chose Hermes, because I believe that even the darkness deserves a little flame. People in dreams need a ray of light to keep from getting lost. This letter does not diminish the glory of the gods, but only enlarges it." Apollo, standing opposite a halo of light shining around his shoulders, his eyes like two arrows of light, immediately replied, "Light does not need to share with darkness. Letters must come in the day, when everything is clear, when no one doubts. Hermes has instilled in mortal hearts a dangerous habit to seek the gods at night. Instead of going to the temples in the sun, the other gods were silent, but the sky rang with the whispering of stars. The Greeks believed that the stars were the eyes of their dead ancestors. Tonight, it seemed as if those eyes were watching, as if to join the conversation. Hermes stepped out, his cloak fluttering in the high wind. He looked at Apollo, then at Hestia. "I did not create the night. It has existed since chaos first enveloped the universe. But if it exists, should it not have the right to carry a message? My brother's light is bright, but too bright it blinds mortals. The night is gentler so they can listen to the deepest secrets." Hera frowned slightly, but did not interrupt. She knew that Hermes was not arguing, but calling down the stars as witnesses, and indeed, one star suddenly shone brighter than the others. It was a rare sign, as if the heavens agreed. Apollo growled, "You make the stars your witnesses, Hermes, but the stars only shine. They do not speak. I fear you are cloaked in dreams to conceal the real danger." Hestia gently placed her hand on her chest, as if to keep the fire in her heart from burning fiercely. "No, Apollo. The stars do not speak, but they are there. It is like when men pray at night, and they do not hear the gods' voices, but they know that someone is listening. My letter only wants to keep that message alive." The debate dragged on. Hestia's fire burned patiently. Apollo's light blazed fiercely. Between them, Hermes became a bridge, both doubted and trusted. Zeus sat on his throne, his thunderbolt in hand, his eyes scanning the world. He did not intervene immediately, allowing the light and shadow to collide freely. But a worry rose in Zeus's heart. If the fire and stars stood on one side, and the sun held the other, would Olympus split in two? That night, the mortals slept soundly, unaware that the sky above was shaking with controversy. In their dreams, they saw only falling stars, heard only the sound of the wind. But no one knew that Hermes was becoming the one to usher in a new era, an era where letters could travel in the night by way of dreams and stars. As dawn crept across the horizon, the debate was far from over. Hestia's fire still burned, the stars still shone, Apollo still shone, and Hermes still stood in the middle, carrying both doubt and hope. For the first time, the sky became a place not only of light but also of unspoken words. Hermes whispered softly, but it seemed that the sky heard. Perhaps, light and darkness are not meant to confront, but to exchange. A letter in the night does not deny the sun. It only reminds us that we need both to live fully. Just as the first rays of sunlight touched the mountain peaks, ending the endless night, the god of dreams slowly descended from the sky. In his hand, he held a letter sealed with golden wax. The letter was not addressed to anyone in particular. Instead, it bore the image of a rising sun. Where would such a letter go? Who would receive it? Perhaps it would find its way to every mortal who had ever prayed in the darkness, who had ever received a reply in their dreams. And as for the dispute between light and darkness, perhaps it was destined to continue forever. Just as the world needed both the sun and the moon, it needed light and darkness, dreams and reality, joy and sorrow. Only in the contrast of these polarities did life find its completeness. If there was no darkness, how could one appreciate the brilliance of the stars? If there was no silence of night, how could one savor the whisper of the wind? On Olympus, the debate continued. In the mortal realm, life went on, and in the vast universe, there were countless stories waiting to be written, countless letters waiting to be sent, countless dreams waiting to be delivered. And Hermes, the messenger of the gods, stood between the fire and the stars, ready to carry all of these friends. This is the end of the 9th part. Now please leave a comment and tell me what you think about it. What is more important in your opinion, light or darkness, dreams or reality? Looking forward to seeing you in the next part. Until then, take care. And then the messenger god got a chance to talk to the sun. He found Helios driving his golden chariot across the boundless expanse of the heavens. His horses were immortal and their manes flowed like molten gold. And Helios himself was radiant, radiating warmth and light onto the sleeping earth. Hermes climbed onto a chariot and rode alongside Helios for a while, enjoying the magnificent view and the feeling of the wind in his hair. Then he turned to the sun god and said, "Oh, Helios, I am but a humble messenger, yet I dare to ask you a favor. The mortals I visit at night tell me of dreams filled with nightmares and terrors, but they also speak of you, Helios. They say that you chase away the darkness and bring light and joy to their lives. I wonder if there is a way for us to work together, for I wish to bring them comfort, not fear." Helios turned his radiant gaze towards Hermes, and a warm smile spread across his face. "You are a god of wisdom, Hermes, and I see your good intentions. Listen then to my words. During the day, I am indeed all-seeing, yet at night my eyes grow heavy with fatigue, and I entrust the guardianship of the earth to my brother Selene, the moon. Approach her, Hermes, and ask for her blessing to watch over the sleepers and ward off the creatures of the night." With that, Helios pointed his staff towards the west where the sun was beginning its descent. "Go now, Hermes, and may the stars guide your way." Taking his leave of the sun god, Hermes sped towards the west, eager to find Selene and seek her aid. However, as he approached the horizon, he felt a sudden chill in the air, and the sky grew dark with clouds. Suddenly, a fierce storm erupted, wind and rain lashing against him, thunder roaring above. Yet Hermes, unfazed by the tempest, pressed on, driven by his unwavering determination to bring comfort to mortals. As the storm reached its peak, Hermes saw a silver chariot racing across the darkening sky, driven by a woman of ethereal beauty. Her hair flowed like liquid moonlight, her eyes shone like stars, and her form radiated a gentle, calming energy. This was Selene, the moon goddess, Helios' sister, and she welcomed Hermes into her celestial chariot. Together they flew across the stormy skies until reaching a peaceful meadow bathed in soft moonlight. Here, slumbering mortals lay safe and sound, their faces serene and relaxed. Selene turned to Hermes, her voice echoing the gentle rustling of leaves. "You have come seeking my aid, little messenger. What troubles you so?" Hermes, kneeling before the moon goddess, poured out his tale, describing the darkness that had crept into mortals' dreams, causing them fear and anguish. He spoke of the Honoroi, the Dreamweavers, and how they had stolen into mortals' dreams, bringing nightmares and despair. Selene listened patiently, her starry eyes filled with understanding and compassion. When Hermes finished his tale, Selene rose, her silver robes billowing around her like mist. She raised a hand, and a single drop of moonlight fell onto Hermes' outstretched palm. "Take this, Hermes," she said softly. "Let it be a token of my aid. When you bring the night letters to mortals, sprinkle a bit of this moonlight on each one. Its gentle glow will ward off the creatures of darkness and bring peace to their dreams." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Hermes accepted the gift, his heart swelling with hope. Together he and Selene returned to the meadow where the slumbering mortals awaited the return of peaceful dreams. As dawn approached, Hermes descended from the sky, carrying with him the hope of a new day. He began his nightly rounds, delivering the messages that would shape mortals' fates. With each letter he placed on a sleeper's chest, he sprinkled a bit of Selene's moonlight, chasing away the shadows and filling their dreams with peace. And so, thanks to the cooperation between Hermes, Helios, and Selene, the nightmares began to fade from mortals' dreams, replaced by visions of hope, peace, and tranquility. And Hermes continued his sacred duty, bringing light into darkness, ensuring that the night letters would forever be a beacon of hope for those who slept. Once upon a time in ancient Greece, Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger of the gods, was known for his cunning ways and swift deliveries. But one night after witnessing the theft of a precious dream, Hermes felt a change coming over him. His usual light-heartedness vanished, replaced by a heavy burden. It was as if his wings, once symbols of freedom and swiftness, were now weighed down by unseen chains. And the letters of the night, which usually brought him joy and purpose, now felt like a Pandora's box of nightmares. Deep in his heart, Hermes knew that if he didn't set some limits for himself, this path would lead to disaster. So that night, while the world was fast asleep, Hermes flew alone to the end of the night sky. Hestia's fire was just a distant red dot, and the stars twinkled like 1,000 watchful eyes. He chose a snow-capped mountain to rest, a place where no people lived, no temples stood. Only the wind howled and the sky stretched endlessly above. There he thrust his caduceus into the ground and, closing his eyes, began to speak. Not to anyone, nor for anyone to hear, but as if addressing the universe itself, he swore an oath by the stars and the fire. He swore to carry letters at night, but not let them become the stuff of nightmares, to hold a human dream, like a flame in the wind, not letting it go out, nor letting it burn out. He swore to do everything he could to make sure the letter reached its destination, unstolen, undamaged. And if he failed, he vowed that his wings should break, that his staff turn to ashes, and that his name disappear from the sky. As Hermes finished speaking, the night wind, which had been howling a moment before, suddenly died down. The stars seemed to wink, as if in acknowledgement. A streak of light, perhaps the Milky Way, glowed brightly, as if to bear witness to his solemn words. But before the oath had cooled, the darkness stirred. From the ravine below emerged the Oneroi, Morpheus, Phobeter, and Phantassos, the dream gods. They did not laugh, nor threaten, but stood still as watchers, as if weighing the value of Hermes' words. Morpheus, his voice echoing the sadness of the night, spoke first. Hermes, you have chosen a difficult path. You want to protect your dreams, but dreams are not meant to be kept. They come and go, like smoke. Why do you try to bind them? Hermes looked straight ahead, his gaze unwavering. It's not that I want to tie them down, I just want to keep the truth in it. A letter cannot be turned into a sword, cannot be turned into blood. If dreams are the path, I just ask that the path not be torn apart. Phobeter chuckled, his dark wings stirring the air around him. You swear, but swearing does not mean victory. What I sow is fear, and fear is human nature. You will never erase my footprints. Hermes nodded, not denying it. I don't want to erase you. I just want to limit you, so that fear doesn't swallow all hope. People need to fear, but they also need a place to rest. The night letter will be that place. Phantassos was silent for a long time, then, as if sharing a secret, whispered, You are like a weaver trying to keep the threads in line, but the dream cloth is a tangled tapestry. I wonder how long you will keep it. With that cryptic message, the three dream gods disappeared into the mist, leaving Hermes alone on the mountaintop. But Hermes stood taller, his heart lighter. He knew that from now on, every night journey would be a silent war, not only with distance and time, but with the very forces that were waiting to turn dreams into nightmares. He plucked his staff from the ground and spread his wings. As he rose into the sky, the snow on the mountaintops glistened like silver under the starlight. The oath he had just spoken now enveloped him like an invisible shield, a reminder of his promise to be the protector of dreams. Above him, the stars were his silent witnesses. Some flickered and then disappeared, as if to remind him of their fragility. But it was precisely this fragility that made Hermes' oath sacred. That night, a new chapter seemed to be written in the Greek sky. From now on, there was a god who swore to keep dreams from being stolen, even if he had to walk between light and darkness. And so the legend of Hermes, the protector of dreams, echoed through the ages. Every night, as he soared through the darkness, he carried more than just messages. He became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of nights, the promise of dawn was enough to keep the monsters of dreams at bay. Hermes flew all night over land and sea. The cold light of dawn touched his cheeks, painting stripes of silver. He needed rest, but the longer he waited, the more the Oneroi might interfere. Finally, at the edge of the forest, he saw a hut made of woven vines. Smoke curled from the chimney, promising warmth and sleep. But before Hermes landed, a whisper brushed against his ear. Dreams are illusions. Hermes' dreams can be taken away. Dreams can be shattered. He turned around, but there was nothing there. Only the trees swayed gently in the morning breeze. Maybe it was just fatigued playing tricks on him. So Hermes left the winged sandals by the door and slipped inside. The hut was cozy. A fire crackled merrily in the corner, and on a bed of soft leaves lay a young woman. Her hair was spread around her like a halo. Her chest rose and fell with each breath. She was sleeping, but her face was troubled as if she were dreaming of a nightmare. Hermes felt a pang in his heart. Could this be Hera's chosen one? He wanted to wake her gently, but she mumbled something, and he stood still, listening. Please don't leave me. Stay with me forever. Don't abandon me. These words tore at Hermes' soul. He realized that this sleeping girl was not a random mortal. This was Persephone, the abducted daughter of Demeter, the goddess of harvest. Her mother must be worried sick. He dipped a finger into the flames and drew a sign on the sleeping girl's forehead. A drop of water rolled down her cheek, then another, and soon tears streamed down her face. She cried out, sat up and looked around in confusion. Seeing a stranger in the hut, she screamed and tried to get away. Hermes stepped forward and stopped her. He recounted what had happened, how he had brought her back to her mother. Hope flickered in Persephone's tear-filled eyes, but then doubt clouded her face again. Will my mother really want me back? After what happened? After Hades claimed me as his wife, I am not fit to be a queen of the underworld." Hermes hesitated. He didn't know how to comfort her, so he simply placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "She must want you back. The earth weeps when you are gone. The flowers wither. The grain withers. All life feels empty without you." Persephone looked at him, her gaze penetrating. "Then show me. Take me to my mother." Hermes nodded, and together they went outside. Persephone stared at the ground. As they walked, her steps hesitant, Hermes kept calling out to her, encouraging her to move faster. But suddenly, a low growl shook the ground. Before them stood a huge hound, its eyes blazing red, its teeth bared in a snarl. Cerberus, the guardian of the underworld, had come for Persephone. Hermes tightened his grip on his staff. The battle was inevitable. First he tried to calm the beast, offering honey-sweetened words, but Cerberus only snarled. Hermes then tried to bind it with the caduceus, but the staff bounced off the monster as if it were made of stone. Enraged, Hermes attacked. His blows rained down on Cerberus, but the dog only shook them off, its fur impervious to Hermes' divine strength. Finally, Hermes noticed a small opening near the dog's muzzle. He leaned close and whispered, "The dream I bring is not for you, Cerberus. This dream is for the queen of the underworld." The dog froze. Hesitantly, he sniffed the air. Then, as if exhausted, he lowered his head and whimpered. Hermes seized the moment, raced past the dog and disappeared into the distance. Behind him, he heard Persephone gasp and a loud bark shake the mountains. He dared not look back. He just flew with all his strength until the ground beneath him became familiar. There, in the valley bathed in sunlight, stood Demeter's temple. She must have sensed her daughter's return, for as Hermes landed, the goddess came out to greet him, her face filled with worry. But when she saw Persephone behind him, a radiant smile lit up her features. She embraced her daughter, then turned to Hermes, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Messenger, you have brought back the light to my life. I owe you, Hermes." With that, she handed him a golden goblet filled with the nectar of the gods. "Drink this, it is a reward for your loyalty." Hermes hesitated, then drank the nectar in one gulp. Suddenly, the world around him exploded into a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds. He felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had ever experienced before. Then everything went quiet again. The temple, the valley, the weeping trees, it was all as if he had never left. Yet Hermes knew that everything had changed. He had proven himself worthy of his oath. He had protected a dream, and that gave him the strength to face any challenge, even those posed by the jealous gods. From that day forward, Hermes was no longer seen as a trickster. Respect and admiration followed him wherever he went. The title messenger of the gods stuck, and every time he delivered a message, it was done with such dignity and grace that no one thought of challenging him. When Hermes brought the box to Hera, she smiled mysteriously. "The dream is inside. Give it to someone so they can experience it." And she added, "The greater the danger, the greater the reward." So Hermes, following her instructions, searched for a human dwelling. He hovered above the clouds looking for a suitable recipient. His gaze fell on a small city nestled in the valley. Below him, people went about their daily lives, unaware of the dream that awaited them. He descended among them, assuming the form of a mortal man. Hermes walked through the city, observing those around him. Suddenly, he noticed a group of children playing near the river. There was something special about the youngest of them. Despite his tender age, he displayed extraordinary bravery, confronting all the other children. Hermes smiled, recognizing the spark of potential in the boy. He decided that the dream would belong to him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Hermes quietly approached the house where the child lived. It was an ordinary dwelling, like so many others. He knocked on the door, and after a moment, a woman opened it. Hermes, pretending to be a humble traveler, asked for shelter for the night. The woman, moved by his request, invited him in. Inside the house, Hermes found a little boy sitting on a stool by the window. The child's name was Tros, and when his mother told him a guest had come, he immediately stood up, staring at Hermes with intense curiosity. Hermes, in turn, knelt before the boy and said, "Tomorrow, when the sun rises, I will tell you stories from distant lands. Would you like to hear them?" Tros nodded eagerly. When the boy was left alone with Hermes, he couldn't contain his excitement. He peppered Hermes with questions about his travels, his staff, and the winged sandals on his feet. Hermes patiently answered each question, realizing that Tros possessed a quality that set him apart from ordinary children. As night deepened, Hermes prepared for the crucial moment. He took the box containing Hera's dream and whispered a spell. The box trembled, and from it emerged a monstrous creature with bat wings and a lion's claws. Its eyes glowed with an ominous red light, and its presence filled the room with a suffocating stench. Tros screamed in terror, hiding under the table. The monster advanced menacingly, its sharp claws scraping against the floorboards. In a flash, Hermes struck it with his staff. The creature recoiled, letting out a deafening screech. The battle between Hermes and the monster continued throughout the night. The room shook with each clash, and the boy peeked out from under the table, watching in awe as the god fought to protect him. As dawn approached, Hermes grew weaker, The monster was relentless, and soon he would be forced to flee without fulfilling his mission. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, Tros did something incredible. He stood up, grabbed his wooden sword and shouted, "Stop, monster, leave this house." Startled by the unexpected voice, the monster paused. Taking advantage of this distraction, Hermes gathered his strength and struck the creature with his staff. The monster let out a final screech and disappeared. With the danger now past, Tros approached Hermes and asked, "Who was that?" Hermes smiled, knowing that the boy was ready to hear the stories he had promised. He sat down next to Tros and began his tale. In the realm of dreams, there exists a race of beings called the Oneiroi. They have the power to enter the minds of mortals and share their own experiences. Today I will tell you about the dream that Hera sent to you. As Tros listened, his eyes wide with wonder, Hermes described the journey of the dream through the realms of the dead and the Titans, the wisdom gained from the oracles, and the perilous encounters with the Oneiroi. He spoke of how the dream had been entrusted to him, Hermes, to deliver it to a child who would prove worthy of its power. Tros listened intently, feeling the dream stirring within him. When Hermes finished his story, Tros was silent for a moment. Then he looked at the staff in Hermes' hands and asked, "Will I have that dream too?" Hermes met the boy's gaze and replied, "Yes, Tros, you will have that dream. You are destined to carry its burden and use its power wisely." Tros nodded, understanding the responsibility that lay ahead. He knew that his life would never be ordinary, and he accepted his fate with courage. From that day on, Tros grew up with the knowledge that he was different. He carried the dream of Hera within him, shaping his destiny and preparing him for challenges that lay in his path. And whenever he looked up at the sky, he remembered the tale of Hermes, the messenger of the gods, who had brought him not just a dream, but a prophecy, a test of his strength, and the promise of greatness. After Hermes left the cottage, the night wind still smoldered on Mount Olympus. Hera sat alone before the magic mirror, a large mirror forged from the silver of the moon. The mirror did not reflect her face, but reflected hidden truths. In it, she saw the child embracing a fierce dream and then finding light. Hera sighed softly. No one in Olympus heard it. It was soft, but heavier than thunder, she whispered. "You did it, Hermes. But do you understand why I chose that child?" The next day, Hera summoned Hermes to her throne. The other gods sat around him. Athena watched silently. Apollo played his harp lightly, and Zeus leaned over, his eyes like fire, waiting. Hera looked at Hermes, her voice no longer cold as before, but carried something half encouragement, half new challenge. "You carried the dream where it had to go. The child did not fall. Do you know why I chose him?" Hermes was silent for a moment, then replied, "Because of the test. Because you want to know if my oath is just empty words." Hera shook her head. "Not only that, the child is no ordinary child. He has no throne, no divine lineage, but he contains within him a seed we, gods, often overlook: a human will. The dream I gave him was the beginning of a series of choices that would shape not only his destiny, but the destiny of an entire land." Athena nodded. "The will of man. How strange. We gods often intervene, but it is man who dares to fight fate with willpower." Hermes frowned. "So, this trial is not to humiliate me, but to sow seeds for the future." Hera smiled slightly, but the smile was ambiguous. No one could guess the hidden meaning. "You are very clever, Hermes. I want you to understand that the oath you have just made is not a joke. When you protect the dreams of people, you are also interfering with the flow of their history. One dream can change destiny. One child can change the world." Zeus spoke, his voice thunderous but filled with pride. "Hera, you are wise. And you, Hermes, remember, your oath has bound you to a difficult path. Men will call your name in their dreams, like a messenger in the night. But at the same time, you will be hunted by the forces of darkness. Do you accept?" Hermes did not need to think long. He knelt down, his voice firm. "I accept. If these wings were made to carry messages, then let them also carry light in the night." Hera looked at him for a long time. A rare gentleness flashed in her eyes. She spoke softly, just enough for Hermes to hear. "I have tested you, not because I hate you, but because I see you as I was when I was young, one who refused to be bound by fate. But remember, Hermes, dreams can save or they can kill. Consider each step." Hermes bowed his head, a strange feeling rising in his heart, both as if he was recognized and as if he was entrusted with a burden that no one else wanted to carry. As he left the council, Athena approached, placing her hand on Hermes' shoulder. "You have a long way to go, but don't forget, in every dream there is always a crack of light for people to find their way back. That is the most powerful weapon you can give them." And Apollo, from afar, sang a sad song. The sound echoed throughout Olympus like a prophecy: a child, a dream, and a winged angel. From now on, the night will be silent, no more. Hermes said nothing, but gripped his caduceus tighter. He knew the truth Hera had revealed was only the beginning. A whole series of dreams awaited him, where light and darkness were entwined like threads of fate. And so Hermes' journey began. He left Olympus behind. His wings beat tirelessly, higher and higher, breaking through the clouds. Below, the golden palace became smaller and smaller until it turned into a small golden scale. Hermes kept going, wanting to fly further than anyone before him, wanting to escape the echoes of the divine banquet. He soared beyond the horizon, into a dark blue world without end or edge. Only then did Hermes slow down, turning around to see how far he'd flown, and he saw nothing. There were no divine faces watching him anymore. No sound reached him anymore. He was completely alone. That night, after leaving Olympus, Hermes did not return to his temple. His wings carried him forever, beyond the clouds, away from the golden light of his throne, to find a quiet sky. He landed on the bank of a river. The water flowed softly, the moon reflected on the waves like countless broken pieces of glass. The night wind was cool, carrying the scent of wild grass and the sound of insects. For the first time in many days, Hermes sat down, leaned his back against a rock, and sighed. In his hand the caduceus glowed softly, but his heart was heavy. Hera had accepted the oath. Zeus had accepted his new role, but Hermes understood clearly. From now on, every dream he carried was not just news, but a part of human destiny. He closed his eyes. And then, without knowing when, whispers came rushing in. The calls of countless dreams. They came from everywhere, bustling cities, poor villages, distant ports, bloody battlefields. There are gentle dreams. The mother dreams of holding her dead child. The father dreams of a bountiful harvest. There are painful dreams. Warriors dream of blood on their clothes. Mortals dream of robbers burning down their houses. There was a strange dream. Golden palaces, wings flying to the sky, dragons waking in deep pits. Hermes listened to it all, and he knew he would never sleep soundly again. For when night falls, men entrust their souls to their dreams, and he, Hermes, had sworn to protect those dreams. That night, Hermes began his first job as dreamkeeper. He flew to a small village where an old woman was sleeping in a cold room. Her dreams were faint, only a desolate field. Hermes blew gently, and a small light fell from his staff. The field suddenly blossomed, and the old woman smiled in her dream. Then he came to a city where a young soldier trembled in the nightmare of war. The Onero intervened, binding him to the scene of death. Hermes withdrew his staff, separating the nightmare, leaving in that scene a white flower growing on the ruins. A small faith, but enough to hold the heart. And so he went from place to place, giving a little light, a little breath, to the dream swallowed by darkness. But the more Hermes worked, the more burdened he felt, because his dreams were endless, and his wings were only one. No one could carry them all. When the moon was setting in the west, Hermes stopped on a high mountaintop. He looked up at the stars and whispered, "Stars, bear witness. I cannot save every dream, but I will keep the light for those who need it most. Tonight is the first night, but not the last." And as he spoke, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if in agreement. On Olympus, Hera looked down silently. She said nothing, only nodded slightly. Zeus on his throne smiled secretly. From that night on, mankind began to whisper, "When we fall asleep, there's a winged god who flies through the night, carrying a staff of light. He does not prevent nightmares, but lights a small path for us to find our way. That is Hermes, the messenger of dreams." And so, the first journey ended. But from there, a new epic began. The epic of dreams and night wings. This is the end of the poem. If you like this story, please share it with your friends. I'll be back soon with a new story. Until next time, take care. You may think you know this tale already. You've heard it before. The first letter was delivered at night because Hermes, the herald of the gods, decided so. There must have been some great reason why he chose night, right? Perhaps he didn't like the sun, or maybe the moon paid him more. Oh, listener, you have it all wrong. This story doesn't end tonight, it just begins. Come closer, I will tell you how from that first night, when Hermes opened the door of darkness and gave a small flame to a child, the world changed. No one knew, but from then on, in every human dream, a god quietly passed by. Hermes was not a god of power like Zeus, nor of wisdom like Athena, nor of glory like Apollo. He was simply a traveler in the night sky, carrying a shining staff in his hand and an oath in his heart. That oath was not written in stone, nor carved on a temple pillar, but in the breath of darkness. No dream would be allowed to sink into despair. One night, Hermes walked silently through the fields where the farmer dreamed of his withered crops. He left a few drops of light, and the crops bloomed again in his dream. One night he flew over the battlefield, saw the souls of the young fallen, dreamed of them returning to their mother's arms. He could not save them, but he gave them one last moment, a warm embrace, and then they were gone. One night he stopped by a poorhouse and saw a hungry child dreaming of bread. He did not make the bread come true, but he left its fragrance in the child's sleep, so that when he woke up, he would still have faith to live. Hermes could not stop war, nor could he dispel death. He only left a small crack of light in dreams, but it was that crack of light that made the miracle happen. Mortals, upon waking, still had the strength to stand up and move on. And so, night after night, a legend was woven. People called him many names: the bearer of dreams, the messenger of the night, the keeper of the fire in the darkness. Whatever the name, the image of him was always the same: silver wings soaring across the sky, among the silent stars. But perhaps the most beautiful thing is not what Hermes brought to the world, but how people began to look at their own dreams. They realized that nightmares were not just darkness, but also a test. They learned that, even in sleep, they could still find the strength to fight the darkness. And Hermes, in all his flights, also realized one truth: he did not save people. It was people, with their will and desire, who saved them. He only did the work of a guide, giving light and then flying away. The long night eventually passes. Every time dawn comes, Hermes disappears. But sometimes, when you wake up from a tearful dream and suddenly feel in your heart that there is still a glimmer of hope, a small flame that has not been extinguished, then maybe Hermes has just flown by and left invisible footprints on your sleep. So, listener, do not be troubled by the fact that this tale has no ending. In the grand theater of the cosmos, where the curtain of night falls and the dawn brings a new day, there is no end, only new beginnings. Just as the sun rises every morning, so too does Hermes take flight every evening. His wings stir the wind, carrying whispers of hope to those who need it most. So sleep now, little one. Let the dreams come and go. And when you awake, carry a bit of that dream light with you. You don't need Hermes to bring you the light. You carry it within you. And if you ever hear the rustle of leaves in the dead of night, or see a shooting star blaze across the sky, know that Hermes has passed by, leaving his blessings on the winds. Now, close your eyes and listen closely. Can you hear the soft beating of wings? Can you feel the gentle caress of the night breeze carrying secrets on its back? These are the gifts of Hermes, the messenger of the gods. Accept them with an open heart and a quiet mind. For tonight, the realm of dreams is yours, and in the tapestry of the cosmos, your dreams are a thread that binds you to the eternal dance of night and day.